Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias, bienvenidos. Welcome to the second day of our third Climate Change in the Caribbean Conference, focused on promoting resilience and equity and addressing climate change in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. I'd like to start off by thanking some of the agencies and organizations that have helped us put this activity together. Big thanks to the Environmental Protection Agency, NOAA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Department of Interior, both Insular Affairs and the U.S. Geological Survey Service, and the Department of State. Lots of collaboration and help in the planning of this activity. I'd also like to thank some of the other partners, the Nature Conservancy, Interamericana, and the Department of Natural and Environmental Resources in Puerto Rico. I want to first of all introduce Luis Cruz-Arroyo. He's the Caribbean Area Director for USDA NRCS. He's been there in that position since 2019. And before beginning that position, Luis worked in various conservation and administrative positions with NRCS in Alabama and Iowa. Luis is a native of Mayagüez, Puerto Rico. And he's also been a key partner in the planning for the conference. So thanks to Luis for that. Luis is also a co-director for the USDA Caribbean Climate Hub. And he leads a tremendous team with a lot of capacity, a lot of programs that can assist in implementing adaptation actions for Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands. So I'm going to turn it over to Luis to introduce some of our welcoming presentations this morning. Luis?
Thank you, Rio. Thank you for the introduction. I would like to start with a welcome. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to represent NRCS in this important forum to discuss our commitment to climate smart solutions for agriculture in the Caribbean. We want to especially focus on addressing NRCS disaster response programs, climate smart planning, and our customer and equity focused approach. On disaster response, USDA NRCS has invested over $15 million since 2017 related to natural disasters from Maria all the way to the recent rains in February. Through basically two programs, the Environmental Quality Safety Program and the Emergency Watershed Protection Program. Through EQUIP, we have assisted local farmers to clean creeks, streams, and guts, clear debris, and repair roofs in animal husbandry farms, among other practices. With EWP, we have finished over 200 projects since 2017 in local communities. That was achieved through the efforts of NRCS staff and support from our sponsors that included the USVI Department of Public Works, the Zone Water Conservation District, the Puerto Rico Department of Natural and Environmental Resources, and several Puerto Rico municipalities. These projects are very important because they protect life and property and mitigate against flooding risks and stream bank erosion issues. For climate smart planning, NRCS has always offered a suite of conservation practices in which we provide technical and financial assistance to help producers build healthier soils, improve nutrient stewardship, sustainable managed livestock, and increase energy efficiency. Last year, we were able to impact around 18,000 acres to our programs on different conservation practices. On the last several years, we have added watershed and landscape level projects that will target funding for specific regions and purposes. One key criteria is climate smart planning. And we have added special focus on soil health as a climate mitigation tool. You can learn more about these efforts on our breakout room session D from 2 to 3 p.m. Through the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, we invested in public-private partnerships to mitigate climate change and address other resource concerns in the Coloso and Yabucoa Valley. We have done similar projects through other funding mechanisms like the Santa Isabel Irrigation Project and the Vida Community Gardens Irrigation Projects. All these projects mitigate against climate change by providing efficient water usage and minimize well water usage. In addition to the bipartisan infrastructure law, $1.1 million will help rehabilitate two dam structures in Puerto Rico. This rehabilitation project will restore both structures to compliance with current NRCS safety criteria and performance standards, and continue to reduce flood risk to life and property. Finally, focusing on our customer and equity approach, USDA announced investments in partnerships to support climate smart commodities, among other opportunities like the National Conservation Innovation Grant and equity grants. On this last one, the Outreach and Partnership Division funded 4 grants that will impact Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands for a total investment of around $2.3 million. These grants will develop and expand bilingual programs, will provide targeted outreach and enhance the technical capacity of groups serving historically disadvantaged farmers, and will advocate and support for informal technical support and social support networks that some of the panelists referred yesterday. In addition, we have created local competitive grants initiatives like the Caribbean Partners for Conservation, the National Water Quality Incentive Grant, and the Conservation Innovation Grant. These local grants minimize competition from big national groups, allowing local partners to receive the majority of the funds. Last year, we funded projects to add technical documents for forestry projects, added technical planning capacity from different partners, and will fund the creation of additional watershed management plans to Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands. To wrap up this welcome, NRCS has the capacity to work at community level, and we have done it in the past, and we continue to do it. One example is the outreach that we're doing in the Bordeaux region, where me and a lot of our employees are meeting with farmers every month to understand their issues and try to do a project that will mitigate against drought in this important region. There's many agencies involved, including the USVI Department of Agriculture, among other federal partners. So if you're a community that is in need of agricultural conservation and assistance, please reach out to us, and we'll be glad to assist you. To finalize, I would like to recognize all farmers, partners, and our employees for making our contributions to this forum possible. Together, we can lead a way through climate smart solutions. Again, I thank Bill for on all the teams for putting this panel together so we can have a functional discussion. So with that, we can continue to introduce the rest of the welcomes, which will be done to virtual videos. The first video will be from Congresswoman Jennifer González Colón. Congresswoman Gonzalez was elected on November 8, 2016 to the Puerto Rico sole representative to the U.S. Congress, known as the resident commissioner locally. She was the first woman to hold the position, and her priorities as Puerto Rico's voice in Congress include spearheading the economic recovery of Puerto Rico. With that, Alberto, we can move to the video. Appreciate the assistance.
Good morning. I'm Congresswoman Jennifer González from Puerto Rico, and I would like to thank all the federal agencies, EPA, Agriculture, the U.S. Interior, and of course, NOAA and Geological Survey for sponsoring this year's conference. These events provide an important platform to address climate challenge in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, bringing together federal, state, local, and nonprofit stakeholders to explore and develop solutions that promote resiliency. The U.S. Caribbean Islands, of course, Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, are no strangers to climate hazards. Our region is highly vulnerable to extreme weather events like hurricanes and tropical storms, flooding, and prolonged period of droughts. These disasters, coupled with rising sea levels and coastal erosion, pose direct threats to our critical infrastructure and the livelihoods of our communities. The risk associated with these events will only increase with rising temperatures. That's why it is critical that decision and policymakers at all levels of government actively engage with communities, nonprofits, and the private sector on our islands to develop the necessary adaptation and mitigation strategies. This week's conference offers an opportunity to achieve just that. In Congress, I have prioritized efforts to ensure our communities in Puerto Rico have the resources and tools to effectively adapt to and to confront climate challenges. For example, In the aftermath of the 2017 hurricanes, I worked with the former member of Congress, Jose Serrano, to secure language requiring that facilities on the island be rebuilt to current industry standards, incorporating resilient designs and features, regardless of pre-disaster conditions. And I think this will ensure our infrastructure can be better, withstand extreme weather events in the future. We have also secured $9 million to date to enable the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to conduct coastal erosion studies in Puerto Rico. I have also sponsored legislation to increase renewable energy sources, such as the Offshore Wind for Territories Act, which will study and, if feasible, authorize offshore wind energy development in federal waters adjacent to Puerto Rico and the rest of the U.S. territories. Moreover, I secured passage of my legislation to make Puerto Rico eligible for the Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart grants, thus providing water managers on the island the ability to compete for additional funding to carry out water conservation and drought resiliency projects. I also recognize that one of the most effective ways to tackle the impacts of climate hazards is investing in nature-based solutions, such as coral reef conservation efforts. Annually, coral reef in Puerto Rico provide flood protection benefits to more than 4,200 people and over 180 million in averted damages to property and economic activity. They have also have the capacity to absorb up to 97% of oncoming wave energy, reducing the impacts of storm surges and flooding during a hurricane. Investing in coral reef restoration efforts, it's therefore crucial to build resiliency in jurisdictions like Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And that's why I have long advocated for reauthorizing and modernizing NOAA's Coral Reef Conservation Program. And for that, I have joined Senator Marco Rubio and Congressman Darren Soto as a co-sponsor for the Restoring Resilient Reef Act to achieve this and increase resources for state and territorial coral reef managers. These are just some of the initiatives we've been advocating in Congress to promote resiliency in the U.S. Caribbean. And I stand ready, of course, to collaborate with stakeholders participating in this week's conference as you explore additional proposals and solutions to help our islands face climate risks. I'm looking forward to working together, as always, and I thank you.
So with that, we want to continue our female power with Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, representing the United States of Virgin Islands at the Congressional Districts of the United States House of Representatives. She's currently serving her fourth term in Congress. Ms. Plaskett is the first member from a U.S. territory and the fourth African-American woman to serve in the House Committee of Ways and Means. She has also been a crucial member of the Subcommittee on Biotechnology, Horticultural Research, and the House Committee on Agriculture, among others. With that, Alberto, let's proceed with her video.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the third Climate Change in the Caribbean Conference, promoting climate resilience in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Thank you to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of the Interior, U.S. Geological Survey, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for hosting this important conference to discuss the challenges, solutions, new initiatives, and opportunities in addressing climate resilience and equity. Conservation efforts are crucial for preserving the U.S. Virgin Islands environment, as well as the history that is entrenched in our lands. Our island communities are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. As the U.S. Virgin Islands representative to Congress, I'm acutely aware of the unique challenges our islands face as we encounter more severe weather patterns and the long-term prospect of rising sea levels and ecosystem changes. It is of the utmost importance that we take the necessary steps to safeguard our environment. We must prioritize the health of our children, lowering emissions, investing in clean energy economy of the future, advancing environmental justice, educating a workforce for the future, and advancing green and resilient housing initiatives. The current warming trend of the planet is unequivocally the result of human activity, which has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land, causing widespread and rapid changes. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the acidity of surface ocean waters has increased by about 30%. This increase is the result of humans emitting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and hence more being absorbed into the ocean. The ocean has absorbed between 20 and 30% of total anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions in recent decades, 7.2 to 10.8 billion metric tons per year. Climate change is real, and we need to be intentional with our strategies and policies. As a member of the House Agriculture Committee and chair of the Subcommittee on Biotechnology, Horticulture, and Research, I have a deep appreciation for the critical role that farmers can play in achieving a more sustainable food system by embracing climate-smart agriculture practices. The security and resiliency of our food system is paramount, and continued investment in research and biotechnology will go a long way in maintaining our spot as a world leader in food production. Agricultural innovation and climate research data will help us better understand the impact of implementing climate-smart agricultural practices and make our food systems more resilient and responsive to shocks. I'm committed to working to ensure Congress delivers the innovation, information, and resources that are needed to deliver climate solutions as we look to the ongoing impacts of climate change, as well as changing risk of certain severe weather events. The Virgin Islands and our neighbor, Puerto Rico, are all too familiar with the changing patterns of high-force winds and rain during the hurricane season, followed by extreme stretches of drought during the dry season. I was able to include an amendment in the American Competes Act of 2022 for a $10 billion NOAA grant program to implement projects that restore a marine estuarine and coastal habitat in the United States, create jobs for fishermen in the United States, or facilitate climate change adaptation along U.S. coastlines. Climate change has affected U.S. coastal economies and devastated employment for too many families across those coastlines. To rise to the challenge, we must pursue new opportunities, including shovel-ready coastal resilience projects to remove marine debris, bolster ecological infrastructure and marine fisheries, increasing U.S. coastal resiliency, and adapting to climate change. In addition to this significant investment, the Competes Act promotes long-term resilience in the Caribbean to natural disasters, severe weather events, and a changing ocean environment by authorizing appropriations in support of the U.S. Caribbean Resilience Partnership launched in 2019, and updates and creates programs to address climate change, ecosystem loss, disease outbreaks, and other threats to coral reefs. I'm encouraged to see the continued collaboration between the organizing agencies, as well as the community outreach, as public education on climate change is critically important. I want to encourage everyone to think critically about the steps you can take, large or small, to do your part in facing these climate challenges. Thank you.
Excellent. So with that, wraps up our welcoming agenda. I hope you have a great rest of the day of learning and interactions. The planning committee is available if you need any assistance through interpretations or anything else. Just feel free to write on the chat or on the questions and answers section. Bill, I'll pass it back to you.
Great, thank you, Luis. It's great to hear from the elected officials, and hope some of their staff are here with us today to hear some of the great presentations that we'll have. I do want to give a thank you, which I neglected early, to all the moderators and speakers who have put together their their presentations and are sharing their expertise today and yesterday. One of the key intentions of this meeting was really to foster that communication between different levels of government, between folks outside of government. And I think one of the takeaways for me from yesterday was just the breadth of expertise that are coming from the private sector, from NGOs, from universities that have great solutions, great adaptation practices, and are producing the science that's helping us make decisions. So I hope to see more of that today, more good ideas coming from all parts of our society. Even given the big scope of this activity with lots of different voices, there's still many voices that could be included that may not be, have been. And so those are good comments to hear from folks as well. I heard some yesterday about where's the Department of Education? And those are all very valid points, very important to just keep broadening the conversation on climate change. So we've got our fifth plenary of the meeting. We'll start at 9:30, and it's focused on strategies for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That plenary session is going to be moderated by Irene Margaret Giarcos. She's a senior economist with the Office of Energy and Environmental Policy at USDA. She's got a PhD in natural resource economics from West Virginia University and a long career in research and policy. Evaluating the intersection of energy with agriculture, the environment, and rural development. And she's been responsible for the greenhouse gas estimates from energy use in agriculture. And our panel includes 4 speakers. Meg, let me introduce you and give you the floor, and we'll start that panel.